A pleasant day to everyone, especially to the GE3 community. I am Violi Angela A. Peralta, and today we will be discussing about the contemporary world's Lesson 11 about the environmental crisis and sustainable development. So once again, I am Violi Angela Peralta, and I am from Group 4. And before we dive into the first topic, we will first discuss about the objectives of this lesson. So first, by the end of this lesson, we will be able to discuss the origins and manifestations of global environmental crisis. Next, we can relate to everyday encounters with environmental degradation. And lastly, we will be able to examine the policies and programs of governments around the world that address these environmental crises. So for the first topic, we have the world's leading environmental problems. So before we discuss the 8 different types of environmental problems, it's essential that we know or we're able to define what environmental problem is. So environmental problem refers to a state in which the order and law of the ecosystem are collapsed as the ecological function it originally had is destroyed due to the influence of human activities. These environmental problems arise from conflicts between nature and humans. So environmental problem, as it states, it refers to the state of the environment where it collapsed or there is a loss of quality due to the influence of human activities. Why is it important to know about the world's leading environmental problems? Now, this topic is not new to us, and ganong importante man jud na ma-refresh po taani na topic. So, we need to recognize that ecological crises are happening around the world. The moment we wake up and go to school, when we commute, there's a lot of pollution from the smokes of transportations, and then maybe some of us makikita how garbage are not being properly disposed of. So those are just examples of the problems that our environment is encountering, and we can see that our environment now is slowly deteriorating, and this has an effect sa population because the deterioration of the environment has destabilized populations and species, which then raise the specter of extinction for some and a lesser quality of life for the survivors and their offspring. So furthermore, the relationship between the environment and humanity is one of interdependence, meaning each affects the other. So just as how the environment has effects on us humans by sustaining us with our needs, humans also has an effect on the environment by kanang pagkuha natong mga resources. So mo na siya ang relationship between environment and humanity. So therefore, just as our actions and choices affect the environment, the health of the planet influences our own personal health and well-being, as well as our communities, families, and even sa economy. So now we will proceed on to the 8 different types of environmental problems, or the world's leading environmental problems. So first, we have the degradation of the environment. So this is the process through which the environment or the natural environment is being compromised in some way, reducing biological diversity and the general health of the environment. So this is actually caused by industrial and transportation toxins, plastics on the ground, the defiling of the sea, rivers, and waterbeds, by oil spills and acid rains and the dumping of urban waste. So clearly, this is the results, or these are the actions of humans now towards the environment. So next, we have the changes in global weather patterns. This is pretty evident in Davao City, no? Kay wala tutag skulahan, or we're getting ready for school, no? Mga morning to mga 1 p.m. kay grabe jud kainit, and then suddenly pagkahapon kay mag-ulan. So grabe ang changes sa weather patterns. And this actually refers to the increase in ocean and land temperatures resulting in a rise in sea levels. So bago-bago lang po nun na nagbaha sa Medina area, and grabe jud makita nato ang effects sa human activities. So the effects includes flash floods, extreme snowstorms, spread of deserts, polar ice caps are melting, and the flooding in many low-lying areas around the world. So next we have overpopulation. So this is the state whereby the human population rises to an extent exceeding the carrying capacity of the ecological setting, and in an overpopulated environment, the numbers of people might be more than the available essential materials for survival, such as transport, water, shelter, food, or social amenities. So sa kadaghan og tao, no, magkaroon na jud ta og food shortage and kanang ingana. So it's quite sad to see na nagadaghan ta kay gadaghan pud ang mga resources natong kinahanglan. So next, we have the natural resource depletion. This occurs when resources are being taken from the environment faster than they are being replenished. So examples of this is kanang sa mining. Causes of natural resource depletion include population growth. So, di ba, na-discuss na to just a while ago, overpopulation. So, kapag sa kadaghan og tao, no, sa kadaghan og tao, mas daghan pud na resources ang atong kinahanglan. So, which causes shortage jud. Then, next we have consumer habits, industrialization, climate change, and as well as pollution. So next we have the waste disposal disasters. So this is caused by enormous amounts of rubbish being dumped in landfills and bodies of water by communities, and the dumping of nuclear waste materials. So next we have the biodiversity loss. This refers to the worldwide extinction of different species, as well as the local reduction or loss of species in a certain habitat, resulting in a loss of biological diversity. So an example of this is the coral reef destruction. If we keep destroying the habitats of the fishes, this will cause a shortage, or this will cause in a loss of those specific species. And next we have deforestation. Deforestation actually leads to a reduction in oxygen and an increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So it is very important na we plant more trees, for us to be able to breathe in more oxygen. So next we have the depletion of the ozone layer. So the ozone layer, this is what protects us, or what protects the world from the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays. So the main cause of the ozone layer depletion is called the CFCs, or the chlorofluorocarbons. These are being released when we use solvents, spray aerosols, refrigerators, and air conditioners. And lastly, we have urbanization. So as a city grows into a megalopolis, it continues to expand, destroying farmlands, increasing traffic congestion, and making smog a permanent urban element. So that wraps up our lesson in environmental crisis and sustainable development.
My topic is data of the different man-made pollution. First, in Saudi Arabia, where the air was the most populated in the kingdom and the Arab world according to the latest data from the World Health Organization. According to the organization, the capital city ranked fourth in the world for concentration of fine particulate pollution and seventh of the concentration of large particulate pollution. And second, in India, Greenpeace India reported that in 2015, air pollution in the country was as its worst, aggravated by the Indian government inadequate monitoring system. There are only 17 national air quality network covering 89 cities for across the continent. In Nigeria, population in Nigeria exposed to air pollution levels with the exceed WHO guidelines compared to 72% of average in sub-Saharan Africa in general, and the air pollution damage caused about 1% post of gross national income. In West Africa, ambient air pollution is increasing across Africa. In the absence of deliberate intervention, it will be increase morbidity and mortality, diminish economic productivity, impair human capital for formation, and undercut development. In China, as recently as 20 years ago, there were be established 50,000 rivers in China, each covering a flow area for the less 60 square miles, but now, according to the China First National Census of the Water, more than 28,000 of their rivers are missing. In Metro Manila, which is the prime city of the established 37% of population, or over 4.0 million Filipinos live in the slums. In 2010, and slums population growth in the rate in 8%, as a leader Islam swiller and informal settler confront on the daily basis, according to the dimensions of the poverty, which is the environmental poverty. The effects of man-made pollution. Population in West Africa has affected. Even air pollution is increasing across the Africa is the absence of the deliberate intervention. It will be increased mobility or morality, diminish economic productivity, impair human capital, formation for undercut development, the utterable pull in the most significant cause of the population in urban areas, increased traffic congestion of the caused by an increase of the number of the vehicles of the road, and lack of urban planning, which is the leads of not only the increased air pollution but only a major economic losses in terms of time and fuel.
Hi, I'm Shane Pinoon, the presenter of this topic. It's called Catching Up with the Reality of Environmental Problems. So, these massive environmental problems are difficult to resolve because governments believe that for countries to become fully developed, they must be industrialized, urbanized, and inhabited by a robust middle class with access to the best of modern amenities. So, para ma-fully develop daw ang isa ka country, need daw muna ipa-industrialize and urbanize. And also, para ma-develop ang isa ka society, this must also have provision para sa mga poor jobs sa industrial sector, sa mga industrial sector, sa transport system, lastly, on cheap foods. Ayun. So, example sa mga poor jobs, mga gamay og labor, or mga gamay og income like janitor, panday, vendors, and especially itong mga farmers. So, ang problema ani kay mostly sa atong mga countries karon is rely na sa mga trade, like trade sa mga foods. Then sa sobra na to ka modernize sa atong agriculture to the point we humans the ones who destroying our environment, which is fact, sa paggamit nato og toxic technologies like fertilizers and pesticides. The desire to develop and improve the standard of their of living their citizens, these countries will opt for the goals of economic growth and cheap energy, which in turn would encourage energy overconsumption, waste and inefficiency, and also environmental pollution. There's also countries nagahabol nga ma-industrialize sila or ma-progressive sila, ma-progressive ilang country. They encourage development through cheap energy production. Like for example, the building of factories na in-encourage nila so they can catch up to the GDP developed countries. These countries like China, India, and Indonesia. Kana sila is na sila like kanang na-prefer sila kay gusto jud nila ma-achieve ang sustained economic growth without regards sa without regards in the environment and tungod na ay ginatawag nga we deplete one resources and it becomes a pollution. For example, trees it takes several years to grow para lang makabuild tag mga homes then other things to catch up to other countries. Pinaputol ang mga kahoy, ginagamit for production of papers, houses and other stuff that can be excuse me made or use trees as a material. So ayun, so we are here on our last discussion of our topic. It's called the consequences. So yeah, worst polluter in the history of the world, 27% was carbon dioxide emission, and the 67% comes from cars and other vehicle. And this extractive economies, however, are terminal economies. The resources which will be eventually depleted are also sources of pollution. So what is extractive economies? Extractive economies tend to treat most local, regional, and even national economies as places from which wealth resources, money, labor, and etc. And then terminal economies highlights the multiple functions that marginal economic centers provide as termination points in dominant organizations and as centers for connections and conflicts. And now, if the United States lets its environmental suffer to achieve modernity and improve the lives of its people, developing countries see no reason, therefore, why they could not sacrifice the environment in the name of progress. So, ang United States, in order to achieve the modernity of the lives of people, meron silang pino-forsake nila ang ilang environment. Other developing countries, they follow the steps They follow the steps of the United States. Ang ilaha po ginahimo is gina-force nila ang ilang environment in the name of progress. So, yun is the last part of my discussion of this topic. And that's it. And we're heading to the next topic about the reality of environmental problems. Thank you.
Good day, I am Jasper Prandi and I will be reporting combating global warming. So let's start with the Kyoto Protocol. In 1977, 192 countries signed the Kyoto Protocol to reduce greenhouse gases. Following the 1992 United Nations Earth Summit, where the Framework Convention for Climate Change was finalized, the protocol set targets but left it to the individual countries to determine how best they could achieve these goals. So in the Kyoto Protocol, they set a target or goals, but it's up to the individual countries on how they execute this protocol. So next is the Paris Accord. So the Paris Accord is the follow-up treaty to the Kyoto Protocol. Is the Paris Accord, negotiated by 195 countries in December of 2015. It seeks to limit the increase in the global average temperature based on target goals as recommended by scientists, unlike the Kyoto Protocol, which has predetermined CO2 or the carbon dioxide emission limits per country. The Paris Accords provide more leeway for countries to decide on their national targets. So the Paris Accord is the follow-up treaty to the Kyoto Protocol. So the difference of Paris Accord to the Kyoto Protocol was the Paris Accord did not set a goals. The Paris Accord it's up to the countries set their own goals on how to protect their own environment. So next is the other movement in combating global warming. In South Africa, communities engage in environmental activism, top pressure industry to reduce emission, and lobby parliament for the passage of pro-environment laws. So in South Africa, their communities actively participate to for their good of their own environment. Next is the University of Chicago. Energy Policy Institute sent teams to India to work with the government office, businesses, and communities in coming up with a viable ground-level project that strike a balance between urgent needed economic growth and improvement of air quality. So the University of Chicago help the Indian government to work with their government offices, to work with the Indian government to sustain their environmental the environmental sustainability and improve their air quality. So next is the Japan. Population pressure forced the government to work with the civil society groups, academia, and political parties to get parliament to pass a blizzard of laws, 14 passes at once, in what became known as a pollution diet in 1970. So the pollution diet in 1970 is they pass a 14 laws in one session. So that is also all about their these 14 laws is all about the environmental, about the environment of the how to protect the environment of the Japan. So next is a when the government still hesitate in fully committing themselves to fight pollution and when international organization still lack of power to enforce anti-pollution policies, social coalition that brings in a village association, academics, the media, local and national government, and even international aid agency together may be the only way to reverse this worsening situation. So also we need the cooperation of the government and also the international organization to work with these environmental problems. So let's get the overview of our of my topic. So Kyoto Protocol uh, is the United Nations set their goals, and it's up to the country on how they execute. While the Paris Accord it's up to the individual countries to set their own goals. So and the three other combating global warmings, the South Africa and University of Chicago and Japan and so many others. So that's all. Thank you.